Welcome back to News and Views. Good to have you here with us on the mighty 790 KFGO, K-Fire, 550 and KCJB 910. When I found out that Kevin Cramer, if you're gauging by money, folks, he's the leader in this House race for the nominee as a Republican for the North Dakota's lone U.S. House seat. He's raised the most money. He's flat out raised the most money. So it wasn't that long ago I was talking to him about that. I was saying, you know, Kevin, that's a barometer. There's polling, I get that, and then there's money, and people are putting their money where their mouth is, and I took that as being a lead for you. Well, when I called you and said pop in today, I didn't know you were going to make this kind of news.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, Joel? And you're right. There are polls which show me well ahead. There's money that shows me well ahead, and by, I guess, those measures, I seem to be a front runner. At the same time, I really have to say I've felt for a long time an urge to open up the party process to include a lot more people. And so my decision that I announced today in an email to supporters and to Republicans to bypass the convention, go straight to the primary, really is about including more people into this process. And I think our state is on the grow, our party should be on the grow, I think we are. And I just see this as a grand opportunity to grow the grand old party.
They brought out the 36-inch Mickey Mantles on you already. I mean, it already happened. Brian Koch come out and said, you know what, I'm going to honor the process, the grassroots. There's no better way of, the Republican Party is doing just well. I'm paraphrasing here. But I'm going to honor the process. Shane Gettle spoke to one of our news members here, and he said, I knew I was doing well. I didn't know I was doing so well that I was going to scare Kevin out of the race. Sure. Respond to that.
Yeah, I'm not out of the race, Joel. I'm seeking the Republican nomination at the primary, and after June 12th, we'll have a Republican nominee, and that's the process that the law provides, and that's the process I've chosen to use because I want to involve more people, because the goal is not to win a convention or even to win a primary. It's to win that general election in November, and as Republicans, as you know, the Politico reported that the Democrat Congressional Committee out of Washington, D.C. has targeted this race as a take-back race for them. That means there's going to be lots of money coming at us from Washington. That's fine. That's the game.
Pam Gullison raised a boatload of money so far, so there's wind under her sail.
There's wind under her sail, and so they have one candidate to get behind today. And I'm just saying, let's get about that business. We don't have time to waste. I want to be a candidate for the Republicans, but I'm going right to that primary and involve a lot more people that will launch us to success in November.
Let me spin a theory, and then you can tell me how foolish I am. Okay? You and I'm sorry she called herself this, so I call her all the time. The Grizzly Mama, Betty. She did.
I know.
It's not my fault she called herself the Grizzly Mama. And ever since I've seen her, she does look hairier to me. I'm just saying. But the Grizzly Mama, Betty Grandy. Then you take Kim Koppelman, obviously leans further to the right than most people. Brian, I would call moderate to left. You look at Shane Gettle, I would say moderate to left. I don't know his politics that well because he's been an employee, but certainly from the Hoven brand of the Republican Party, which is moderate to left. You're dividing up your Republican delegates at that convention through some other candidates. The numbers weren't working for you, and then the Hoven machinery kicks in with Shane Gettle against you at that convention where the bucks lie. And your rules at the Republican convention I don't like, which is you can pay to have more people fill the butts in the seats if you fill a delegation. So it really wasn't the deck stacked against you once Shane Gettle got in this race, and didn't that lead to this decision? Well,
first of all, there's no question that going to a primary, I have a lot of advantages, and I think this is about playing your advantages, and so I have those. As far as the convention goes, could I have won the convention? I think I probably could have, but this really isn't about that. This is not about process, but rather about principle, and so I just want to open this process up and involve a lot more people because I think that is what gets us to victory in the fall. Your theory, of course, is a plausible theory. It's a rational theory. And I certainly
right.
Go
ahead, say it. You'll feel better right after you say it.
You know how much trouble a Republican can get being on this show with you?
How the heck with them? You know what? You want to see my lineup for today? I mean, I've got Dwayne Sandberg. Exactly. I'm surprised John Holman hasn't just called in.
So it pays to have a big audience.
Yeah, okay, let me throw this at you, sure. Okay? The decision to make this announcement prior to the convention, politically, quite astute and quite wise. Because if you make it after the convention, what you're going to find is people are going to say, well, now he's pouting because he possibly lost.
Yeah.
Talk to me about why
Yeah.
make it before the
That's a great point, Joel, and it's probably the most poignant point of the day. What I wanted to do was, because it's been out there. I mean, this isn't a shocker to people that I'm going to go to the primary, that I'd consider.
Everybody knew that you were pouting.
People, they've asked the question, they've asked for loyalty oaths, and so I said,
double secret blood. Here's my jackknife.
And that's okay. But what I want to do is to do this with as much integrity as possible. I'm nothing if not transparent, as you know, and so
which again gets you in trouble.
Sometimes does. But I wanted to let the delegates know right up front that, look, this is my intention. So before you decide to be a delegate to the convention, before the plans are all laid out, before you start laying out the money to go to the convention, this is what I'm going to do. And I didn't want it to be a sour grapes appearing deal. I didn't want people. I wanted my opponents to know the situation because maybe they want to do the same thing.
In the world of instant communication,
Yes.
where you and I spoke 3 or 4 times by text, by phone, whatever this morning, you're already getting pushback or reaction, or at least response from supporters and non-supporters.
Right.
What are you hearing so far?
I'll have to be honest. I didn't know what the pushback would be like, and certainly the hour is early on this. I personally, I probably sort of expected the worst in terms of the blowback and in terms of the firestorm. I've been very heartened by the support, to be honest. I mean, some of the people that have called, that have emailed, that have spoken on my behalf, people I don't know, have been very supportive, and for all the reasons that I state. The convention process, as wonderful as it is very narrow in terms of the people that participate. It's very confining in terms of who can afford to go, who can pay the fee, who can take the time, all of those things. And so I've gotten a lot of support for those arguments. There are others, of course, that are very disappointed, and I expected that to be the case. I did call State Chairman Stan Stein this morning before the email went out to let him know what I was doing, and he, of course, is disappointed, but as always, a gentleman and cordial and respectful.
My 8th grade teacher, by the way.
Yeah,
he's one that caught me cheating in the bathroom. Let me throw this at you.
So you can never run for office again because you
I tell too much.
Most
people who know me knew that I wasn't the brightest kid in the room. Hey, let me throw this at you. In terms of the conservative movement that has taken over the country, and I do believe that the 2010 elections, the power behind the GOP really came from the Tea Party movement, behind people who really felt that the Republican Party itself wasn't conservative enough. Sure. And those people, I have found, that call in and email this show resonate with you. They like you, okay? When you look at how the Republican Party has really treated those people when it comes to nominations, Paul Sorums, Dwayne Sands, really isn't this just a direct response to what you already know, which is that the Tea Party under the GOP gets a lot of handshaking, a lot of backslapping, a lot of "we love to see you," and oh, by the way, we're nominating these guys over here.
Well, I would say this, Joel. It was maybe a year or so ago that I made a statement that if the Republican Party is not careful, if they don't welcome these people in with open arms, and I don't mean just welcome them in to sit in the back of the room, there could be a backlash. Maybe it wasn't a year ago, and that is concerning to me. But at the same time, I think it's less about that philosophy, about sort of conservative philosophy, and more about the principle that the Tea Party represents in terms of activism, grassroots, spontaneous activism, versus sort of the more the traditional pay up sort of activism. And so while I agree with you, I suppose in basic concepts, but I don't know that it's about conservative versus moderate as much as it is just about involving more people of all stripes. I mean, I was the state party chairman 20 years ago who dared appoint co-chairman to the platform committee, Janet Wentz, who was pro-choice, and Al Hassauer, who was pro-life, in an attempt to pry open those doors and involve a broader base, get them talking.
The other part of all of this is the fact that when you look at your history, you've got an investment. Sure. You ran some tough races, you lost some tough races, and so if you walk over to West Acres in the town you're in right now, or you walk over to the Kirkwood Mall in the town that you live in, and you say, as people are walking down the hallway, do you know who Kevin Cramer is, or do you know who Shane Gettle is, or do you know who Brian Hawk is? What you're going to find is that the vast majority of them know who Kevin Cramer is. That is an investment that you've already earned, And doesn't that play well then at the primary?
There's no question. I have advantages in the primary route, and that's one of them. I have almost universal name ID. I have very high favorables versus very low unfavorables. That'll change once we get into a campaign.
We'll make sure.
Yeah, I have no.
Well, we've got a job to do too.
I completely understand that, but that all lends itself to my point. That with the Democrat National Party making this a target, one of the top 36 targeted races, that means hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, national dollars coming into the state. We have to have the most electable person, and that electability is best determined at an election.
You have meetings, so last question, I promise. For you, who is sitting there making this decision, was there ever a process or part of that process of deliberation where you thought of, look, rather than the primary, I take all of this support I know I can get and I make this a three-person race? Because if you don't win in that primary, you're out in the fall. You can't run as an independent. So then, were you considering that at all?
I've never considered that. I never would consider that. I am a Republican, and I believe that, like I said, loyalty to a political party is not measured by, commitment to a process, but rather commitment to a principle and a platform. So no, I'd never considered that.
And I think the Republican Party members today needed to hear you say that.
And my history is, as you pointed out, 20 years of building this party, and I believe this is another step in building our party.
People want to find out more, where do they go?
KevinCramer.org.
All right, Kevin, thanks. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Joel.